I'm almost done my tea, don't worry.
All right. Well, according to Google, we're now live.
Yeah.
So,
see if anyone's there.
Excellent. So I will officially say hello to everybody who is watching this on YouTube or the world. My name is Oren Merton, and I am the content manager for Groove 3. And we decided to start something new, to not simply send out our little email reminder that, hey, there's great new content up there, but to actually talk to our content authors about the great content that they're creating. And so I thought we would start with Eli Krantzberg, who has done so much for us and has some new tutorials up right now. So Eli, I'm going to turn it over to you, and why don't you give us just a brief introduction to yourself and give us a little bit about your music and audio resume and all that good stuff.
Okay, hi all. Thanks for tuning in. A little bit of background about myself. I started off as a musician rather than in the audio end part of it. I'm a drummer. I play vibraphone also, a little bit of keyboards, but a working drummer. And I came up being a working musician. I've earned my living for the bulk of my career until a few years ago, before Groove 3, as a working drummer in a commercial band here in Montreal. And my experiences with recording started being on the other side of the glass as a player. And we used to, in the 90s, record with my band, and we'd be in the traditional analog studio with the big mixing console with all of us standing behind, writing the faders and, remixing and making sure this was 2 dB more, 2 dB less, that kind of thing. I got into the whole, starting with MIDI and then audio thing in the early 90s with the beginnings of Logic on Mac. I got into the party about 1992, 93 with Logic 1.1. and got into the MIDI thing and got into the audio thing as it was starting in 93, 94, it was right there to the beginning, and came up right from the beginning like that. And a large part of my sort of support and growth was due to the Logic Users Group, which was an email list originally. It's now a discussion forum online, but an email list with a lot of users from all over the world going through all the same experiences together, figuring it all out together. And I learned a lot, and quickly became, as Logic grew, towards the end of the 90s, became one of the old timers, around here who kind of knew it already. So, when all the film composers and other musicians were getting into it, all of a sudden I was the go-to guy to hire, and I started doing tech support, because I was the one there from the beginning. And sort of grew from there. I started writing for Electronic Musician in the mid-2000s due to an old buddy of mine, Len Sasso, who I know Oren knows, and some of you old-time Logic users may know. And from there, I got hooked up with Groove 3, started doing the videos. My very first video was at the end of Logic 7. And since then, my career shifted a bit. I'm now mainly a video tutorial guy and less a working musician, although still juggling both. So that's the short, I hope, answer.
Excellent. Yeah, and as you mentioned, we have moved in some of the same paths, in the sense that I too started in the Logic user group. In fact, I'm still one of the administrators of it. And from Logic, I sort of explored the entire audio world. I know Len Sasso. I've written for Electronic Musician. So we've walked in a lot of the same circles, even before we were working for the same company. So you more or less answered my next question, which is what led you to become a video tutorial author. So I'm going to move right to one of the tutorials you've done very recently for us. You've actually done two very recently, one on Logic on the 10.2 update, and just before that you did one called First Song in GarageBand, which is a really creative title. I really enjoyed that title. And so I just wanted to ask a little bit about the song, Hello Fun, and what your goals were with creating that song and creating that series, and what you're hoping people will get out of it.
Okay, good question. To be perfectly honest and blunt, and I kind of like this. I kind of like when you're doing something creative to have a bit of a box that you have to work in. I love the expression, the absence of limitations is the biggest obstacle to creativity. And one of the limitations I had, which I appreciated, was from you and the other Groove 3, bosses. You wanted a song to be kind of contemporary, sort of modern EDM type of style. So I kind of started with that in mind, that was my goal, to write something in that kind of genre. And my goal was to do something, that was GarageBand, it's not obviously not the most sophisticated DAW, so there wasn't going to be the opportunity to explore like, you know, really sophisticated DAW techniques in it. And I, again, welcome that limitation to sort of focus on the fun and the songwriting part of it. I mean, after all, at the end of the day, this is what it's all about, just writing songs and music and having fun. So I got to work. My goal was to just create a song that I thought would convey and communicate good, solid songwriting, you know, building blocks so that it could be useful on that level, you know, teaching about chord progressions and verses and pre-choruses and choruses and how to move between them. And also some simple production techniques, simple dictated by the fact that it was GarageBand, you know, dropping instruments in and out and changing up this and that. So my goal was to sort of create a song that was built on a solid foundation and some simple production techniques that I think serve as building blocks to any style of music when you're working in a modern DAW, that are just sort of good tools and techniques to know and understand and have and build on.
Absolutely. And as far as full disclosure goes, I was asked to play a little guitar on it, so I got
yeah. I have to say I loved your guitar part on the breakdown when you on the second chorus, third chorus. I love that guitar part. It really added to the vibe.
It's a fun song, and it was a lot of fun to work with on that. So before we wrap up, I just want to mention to our live viewers that if you have a question for Eli, there's, I believe, a little bitty box towards the bottom of the viewer window if you're watching this on the Google Plus page that says Q&A, and any questions that you type in will appear to us on our screen. So once I'm done with my little interview segment, if there are any questions here, Eli can answer those for you. So my next question is about your future. What do you have on the horizon as far as either musical stuff that you're doing as a musician, songwriter, things, tutorials that you'd like to do for Group 3 that are either in the works or that we're talking about, stuff like that?
You know, the short answer is I love what I do. I mean, my career at this point is mainly doing this type of video tutorial content and some work as a live musician. And I also do some recording here in my studio. I love it. My life is great. My goal is to just continue going on the way I am. Now, having said that, to zero in on the nuance of that, but my goals are, you know, broadly speaking, I would say I do two types of videos for Group 3. I do the, you know, here's how you use this synth, here's this DAW explained, you know, explaining tools. And the other ones are the sort of creative ones, song production, music theory, MIDI orchestration, that kind of thing. I mean, I like doing both. I hope in the future to continue to do more of the creative titles involving a bit more writing. I really enjoyed collaborating with Shahara on the song that we did in the first song in GarageBand series. And that's obviously stimulating in a way that I don't get as much a chance to do as some of the other things I do that are stimulating just in different ways. Mm-hmm. So I'd like to do more of that. My band's working. I have a ball, you know, my setup at home, I'm a drummer, and I have my drum set up, or you can probably see it behind me. I got the mics permanently in place. I'm set up to record. And one of my favorite things I love to do is I have guitar players over. I have a few guitar player buddies. I program up some backgrounds in Logic, and we play, record, jam, write, you know, whatever. And it's a ball. I get to work out my chops and drums, get to really listen to myself closely and work on my playing, get to work on my mixing too. It's fun. I have a really nice mixing template in Logic that I like for my drums. Got a ton of plugins and parallel compression and buses and all kinds of stuff, and that's stimulating too. So I just want to do more of what I'm doing. Basically, that's my goal.
All right. Well, I have one final question, and this is relating to the Logic update that you just did for us. So one of the major new features in Logic 10.2 was Alchemy. So I thought that I would leave with just a little bit of a teaser. So what might you be working on right now, say?
Well, yeah, you know, I'll tell you, because I've been thinking about that today. Actually, I'm right in doing some Alchemy videos. I got about 32 minutes done already at this point, and I'm you know, continuing. I'm probably about a third of the way through, or a quarter of the way through. You know, what I'm thinking about is I don't want it to be too dry because, you know, so far what I've covered is, you know, the presets and the performance controls, how to tweak them. That's all fun and cool. Now I'm getting into the stripping it down, call up a raw sine wave, you know, look at the source editors and just really bare bones dig into the real underbelly of it. And I want to try my best to find a way to not make it too dry. I'm trying to come up with interesting musical examples rather than, you know, here's a sine wave, here's what it's like when you apply a filter, and here's what the resonance sounds like. I want to make it a little more, you know, hopefully interesting than that. But so that's where I'm at now. So I'm doing an explain series on Alchemy, going through all the guts of the source and on the advanced tab, the source editors, and just, you know, looking to make it as interesting and you know, captivating as I can.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you for your time. And I see a couple comments on the Google Plus page. Someone. James, there is a button, there should be a button on the actual video that says Q&A, and that should allow you to ask questions, although I think it may only exist beforehand, so we get the questions in advance. So you may have missed that. If you did, I'm sorry. And then you also have just some people giving you you know, warm regards for what you've done through Groove 3.
Let me get that Google Plus page up. Hang on.
So, Eli, thank you very much for your time and for talking about what you do for us. This will not be... Oh, wait, you do have a question. There we go.
Will there be more extensive singing and voice tutorials? I know there's a basic vocal teaching video, but wondered if you could have more teachings on vocal warm-ups, performance, vocal health, etc. That's really interesting. You know, one of the things, of all the videos I've done with Groove 3, I really love when I bring in talent, particularly singers, to work with. It just makes the content so much more, you know, able to engage with. So to answer your question, yes, I would like to do more with singing. And now I'm not a singer, so I'm not really going to be involved in, you know, specific vocal tutorials, but I do hope to include vocalists in my content. And we have one title on the horizon. I don't know if I can speak about it. The, you know, SO3. We are planning another first song type of series, and It will involve a singer. So I do plan on incorporating vocalists in my tutorials, but I mean, I won't personally be doing in-depth vocal training type series. I got another question here. Hi Eli, great to see you here for the first time. Being a great fan of your tutorials, I know your voice very well, but I can't recall to have seen you for real until now. So, that's my hair, okay. Question, do you plan to teach more about orchestral MIDI music production? Good question. I don't at the moment. You never know, but I don't at the moment. I know the orchestral tutorial, MIDI orchestration tutorial I have, it's a bit long in the tooth technically by today's standards because it was done with Logic 9 with Miroslav library, and I had a custom environment for key switching. You know, it was kind of, you know, there's a lot more elegant solutions for that kind of key switching now. There's other software instruments and plugins that make it a lot more doable. There's no immediate plans to, and what I can tell you is that the content on that series is still 100% good. I mean, aside from the key switching stuff, you know, and the technical part, the actual orchestration part of it, I think and hope people who watch it think is strong. So that part doesn't need to be redone. It's in the back of my mind that the tools and the technical part of that series are a bit out of date at this point. So there's no plans on the horizon right now, but you never know. That's my answer for now.
And if I could just add to that answer, you know, every time there is a new version of a DAW, of you know, a major new version, then that always is an opportunity to really sort of look and analyze what we have that's old, that we might want to redo and stuff like that. So just because there isn't one on the cards right now doesn't mean when like the next version, maybe Logic or whatever else comes out, these things won't come up. And we have another question.
Hello, Eli. Kind of specific question, but I ask anyway. When I select the track in Logic Pro 10, it selects all regions on it, which I don't like very much. In Logic 9, I turned this off. Can't find the option in Logic Pro 10. Am I blind or is it gone? That's a good question. I believe it is still there. Oren, do you know the answer? I know it's a key command. I'm just trying to remember exactly where. At one point, it might have been a preference, but I know it's a key command now. They might have changed the name. I know it's still there, but there is a shortcut. If you hold down, I think is it Option? If you select the track name while holding Option, it won't select the regions on that track. I know what you're looking for. You're looking for that key command to toggle the behavior without the modifier, and it is there. Can't remember the exact name of the command right now, but shortcut is. I believe it's Option. Do you know if that's it, Warren?
Yeah, Option is it. I also have forgotten the name of the exact command because they keep changing.
Yeah, they do change the wording in the language.
You know, they're always honing in on what's sort of more exact and specific wording, and so that does mean that you've memorized the command. You know, I remember my favorite example is for so many years there was the command pick up clock, which
I remember that. Yeah.
If you, as far as just an English, you know, a group of English words goes, means nearly nothing.
Yeah.
But a lot of us just became so used to it because it was just what it was called.
I just found the key command, just sort of looking in logic here. It's unassigned by default, but it's called toggle select regions on track selection.
That's
so
it.
if you go to your key commands, type in toggle select region. I just typed in select and it came up about a third of the way down the page, but that's it and it's unassigned. So there's the answer.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much, Eli. See, actual practical help, not just an interview. Way to go. All right. Well, that is the end of our Hangout. And thanks to everyone who watched us live. This will be available on the Groove 3 YouTube page. And please feel free to tell all your friends it exists if you think you know people who are interested. And we will be having more of these in the future. So stay tuned. Thank you. And Eli, thanks again.
Thanks. See you all around Groove 3.